Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Hi, Belinda. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's good to see some new and familiar faces. Hi, Trisha. Hi, Angela. Hi, Amanda, Karen, Kim. Welcome. So, as we get started today, I would invite you to just share where you're joining us from in the chat, and maybe just one or two words about how you're feeling in this particular moment. And we just welcome you to this week's gratitude circle. So before we jump into Belinda's meditation, I just wanted to do a quick exercise with you. I did it this morning and I really loved it. And I was like, well, let me try this in today's gratitude circle. And I think part of what I love about what we're doing is how do we actually make this digital experience feel just as real and positive as if we were in a room together. And I think this is requiring us to create new rituals and new practices for how to be in community together. So it's so great to see we have folks from the South Bay, Tulsa, Mountain View, Mount Shasta, Dallas. We're streaming all over. I love it. So if everybody just gonna get settled in for a second, and this isn't a meditation. This is just a little bit of like something that we can all do at the same time, and just kind of sort of that feeling experience of being together. So you put your right hand out, and just want you to imagine you're just holding your heart, like you're just holding it up. Just you're holding your heart. Just feel the weight of your hand. Just play with it a little bit. See if you can feel a little bit of energy moving through your right hand. And now I want you to put your left hand up and keep your right hand up still. Now put your left hand up and let this hand hold your wisdom. So you're holding your heart in your right hand and your wisdom in your left. Okay. Now put your right hand across your body, kind of almost over your heart, but on your shoulder. And then put your left hand on your other shoulder. And now just sort of embrace yourself. This is like a hug, you know, it's sort of like you're embracing yourself with your heart and your wisdom. Imagine just energetically that we were together, and it was like seeing a long lost friend, and just that embrace that is so enjoyable. We don't get to do this as much with COVID, and just this little embrace that we can all share in this moment together. How'd that feel? Thumbs up, you like it? I found myself this morning, I sort of like, I had a hard time letting go. I was like, I kind of like hugging myself right now. It felt kind of good. Well, we appreciate you joining us today. And, you know, and I think if you received the email this week and been tracking the last couple of emails, I've been obsessed with just this idea of navigation, and just the fact that looking up changes our brain chemistry, and how we can lose sight of things when we look down and forget that we're part of something bigger. And as I wrote in my email this week, it's just nature's reminding us when we look up, we remember that we're part of something bigger. And we feel that connectivity. We feel that hug, right? When we are part of something bigger today. And so that really has been the intention and spirit in which this week's gratitude circle is being brought together. And so Belinda will now guide us through a meditation before we do the gratitude blooming cards and see what nature and synchronicity has in store for us.
Thank you, Omar. It's so lovely to see familiar faces and new faces here. Welcome, everyone. And I don't know about you, but this week I'm really just feeling this emergence of spring with the warmer weather and starting to see things coming out of the ground. So this meditation is kind of inspired by this idea of emergence and also how, in order to really fully receive that emergence, we have to be very open in our hearts. And so, Omar, I love that you introduced this way of starting because I was thinking that today would be more heart centered meditation. So, I'd love to invite you to just check in with your body as you arrive into the circle. Our bodies are such a precious gift that do so much for us. And just take a minute to connect with your body. If it's helpful, keep your eyes closed and find a way to just get a little bit more comfortable. So if it's just like, shaking out a part that feels a little tight, do that. If it's adjusting the way that you're sitting or standing or the way that your feet are connecting to the ground, just take a minute to arrive in your body and focus on your comfort in this moment. And we'll close our eyes and we're going to take a deep breath and invite the energy of the earth, vitality of spring to come in through the bottom of our feet and flow all the way up our body, coming up our spine, washing over the front body. And when we exhale, just let go and relax into this moment. So, doing a couple rounds at your own pace, receiving the vitality of the earth and releasing with our exhale. Breathing in, releasing out. Breathing in, releasing. For this next round of breath, imagine the energy coming from the center of the earth and flowing gradually all the way up to our heart. And with each breath, really focusing in on your heart today, feeling the expansion of your heart with each breath. Breathing in to expand. Exhale to soften even more deeply into your heart today. If it's helpful, you can even gently put your hand to your heart to feel it even more deeply. And as you breathe, Imagine a beautiful flower blooming inside of your heart. And as you breathe, the flower blooms even more beautifully in your heart. Be present with the beauty of that flower. What are the colors that you see? What shape do the petals make as that flower blooms within you? With each breath, you feed your heart flower, your gratitude and your love. Notice the delicate details of the flower as it grows within you. How do those petals feel? And how would it smell if you could smell this flower? Breathing in the vitality of the earth, feeding the beauty of your flower. Feel the growth and expansion within you. Reflected by your flower. Really notice and soak in that beauty that reflects your own beauty. In what ways are you beautiful? Just like this flower. Breathing in the expansion of this beauty. Releasing anything that you want to let go of to make room for this beautiful expansion within you. And give your heart some gratitude today for everything it does to keep you alive and well, and everything that your heart feels and holds for you emotionally, its intelligence and its wisdom. Couple more deep breaths to be present with that feeling of gratitude and beauty. And just know that whenever you need to remember your own beauty, this flower lives within you as a reminder. And as we transition from this inner circle and connection with our hearts, gradually let your flower release into the world, connecting with the flowers of everyone in this circle and sending it out into the sky like a symbol of beauty surrounding the earth and floating all the way up into the universe. Letting that go wherever it needs to go. Remembering that you can always go back to it when you need. And we'll gradually transition back to the circle, fluttering your eyes and meeting the people here with a gentle gaze. And as we enter into the circle, just remembering that we are our own inner guides, our best teacher with our own wisdom about ourselves. And therefore, in this space, we don't need to worry about fixing, advising, or saving anyone else. We're here to receive and share our story. And we're here to be with silence as a participant in our circle.
That was beautiful, Belinda. Thank you. I was connected with a friend earlier this week, and we joked about just all we've learned over the years, and he had a line that I remembered. It was basically that good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. And so I just, as I shared about holding our heart and holding wisdom, I think it's sort of the self-compassion for the bad judgment, which turns into experience, and we can then celebrate as wisdom. And that's a little bit of what we get to sort of practice each week with this circle, is a little bit of that self-care, a little bit of that wisdom, in a safe place. So we'll now pull up the gratitude blooming cards. I have one more Zoom tip. You might hear more about this over the next couple of weeks, because I think these digital spaces are so important that we have to create new rituals. And one that I've been starting to practice over the last couple of days is to turn off the self-view camera. So if you go to your tile, you can turn off your self-view. And it's really helped me just become more present, because when we're together in in-person environments, you never look at someone and look at yourself at the same time. It is very distracting to see yourself as you try to be present with other people. And so over the last day or two, I've turned it off, and I've found it to be a very helpful one. Not a requirement, but just an invitation as we continue to create these digital spaces together. So now we have the card. Does anybody want to pick one? Anybody feeling moved? Or just say stop, and we'll stop on that row.
Stop.
All right. And somebody want to give us a column? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. Or you can drop it in the chat. Raise your fingers, however you want. 4, 3, and 4. All right, those will be the next two. All right, 3, 4, and 6. Look at that.
Nice.
Let's see what. Let's start with 3.
Our old friend from last week.
I think so. The orchid. Yeah, this was last week. Mystery. Can you embrace the unknown and be grateful for the mysteries in life? Well, given that this came last week, does anybody, how has their relationship to mystery maybe have changed or stayed the same? Or did anybody buy an orchid this week? I know I was hoping Amanda might buy one.
Amanda, I'm curious if you ended up buying one after last week.
I didn't buy one. I did think about it a lot, but I think my fear of just killing it probably stopped me. But I feel for mystery that I've been able to be more settled into experiencing life as it has been like written for me versus forcing anything. So pulling this card last week, it definitely brought a sense of peace to my life, especially my thinking patterns. Because sometimes I have a habit of just being obsessive about knowing, what my future is going to look like. But I even went back and watched the recording on YouTube when it came to this card specifically. So I was really moved and even changed by this card last week. So it's good to see it again.
Thank you. Anybody else feeling moved by the mystery of the orchid, embracing the unknown?
I wonder, because it's so interesting to have it 2 weeks in a row. If where last week the word hit us, and for those of us who were on the call last week, we kind of unpacked mystery. And I think, if I remember, it was the second after Destiny. Is that right? That was the link there. And I'm wondering, for me at least, if it feels a little more palatable and accessible as a word, easier to embrace this week because of what we learned from last week. And all of a sudden, the word mystery isn't quite as mysterious or elusive as it was a week ago. So.
Denise.
I was not able to make the call last week, but this is exactly the card I needed today. There's mystery just sitting around me in this exact moment. And I have been fraught and fiending on it all day, to the point where like I know my heart is beating more quickly. And so this was exactly the card I needed today.
Kim.
There we go. Yeah, I think about this card. I in general want to know everything, right? I'm not good with the unknown. So I think I have to consciously embrace the unknown, I guess, in some ways. Like I kind of want to figure things out and make sure everything's going to be okay for everybody, like for my kids, especially my family. But I think I'm trying to embrace it, especially I feel like with the world of COVID, there's just been so much unknown. And And it's been really hard to embrace the unknown. It's been a bit scary. I'm a teacher, so going into work at school, um, and just knowing what's what, and I don't know. But I think I'm doing better about it, but it takes like a conscious effort for me. It's not easy. And I think it's a gratitude card. And I was like, oh, wait, I'm supposed to somehow feel gratitude like for something that for me is so uncomfortable. But I like the unknown sometimes, but if it's not scary to me or upsetting, and then I was like, well, how do you embrace all of the things that are unknown, right? Not just the things that I might look forward to, but maybe, I don't know, the things that I'm not comfortable with. So it's kind of interesting to try to get my head to be grateful for that. I think I need a lot of practice on this card. Or maybe just let go, actually. Actually, I don't think I need to practice this. I think I just have to let go and accept the mystery. So, oh, okay, there we go.
I think for me, the card this week, I'm just really struck by the contrast between the black ink and then the color of an orchid, right? Which is vibrant. And that's like the whole point of an, not a whole point, but in some ways an orchid is this hyper elegant, super attractive, hey, pollinate me kind of flower. And yet it's drawn in this very stark, sort of minimalist way. And I was just, I was in a healing circle this morning, and one of the practices is lighting a candle. And because it's supposed to sort of hearken to when we all sat around campfires. And when you were in circle in person, lighting a candle was sort of this very symbolic move. And then doing it in digital, where you can't feel the heat, it sort of feels very removed. And all of a sudden, and then now, and some people have been using these like electric candles. And so like an electric candle is symbolic of a real candle, which is meant to be symbolic of what happens in person, which is meant to be symbolic of like a campfire. And it's like 5 steps removed from it all. And I guess to me, like this juxtaposition of these two things, just we get lost in symbol sometimes, and we actually forget what is real. And maybe like things aren't so mysterious, but we become so abstracted from the real thing that we kind of forget what's real versus what's sort of, I don't know what the word is, but it's just sort of a replication. It's not the real thing. And what would it look like to sort of strip down to just kind of stay back to basics? I don't know. So that's what's pulling me on this card today. Thank you.
I feel very connected to this mystery. First, I love orchids. I'm sitting in a room that has a sill with about 10 orchids, and they're in various stages of bloom. So I have the purple and the yellow and the white and the one that's not quite out yet. So I don't know what it's going to be. And then I have tulips. I have pink tulips sitting right in front of me, and they're just opening up beautifully. But the orchid thing and mystery is I think just a beautiful word and connection to our reality, which is, for me, I've come to know that we actually don't really know anything about the events and conditions that will arise in our lives. That's how I feel. And I'm in a group where we're looking at the mystery of what the what the ancestors are trying to tell us. The project is trying to locate a space for sacred hospitality. And the coming together of this group has taken, for some people, decades and others a few years. And we're trying to feel into that which is not evident right now. But we know we're at a crossroads, and we also know, at least for Los Angeles, that depending on the choices we make, the crossroads will lead us in a direction of more conflict or higher aspirations being met. We're sitting really deeply with it, and at the same time trying to operate in the material world. So it's been a mystery. We actually even made this word. But what we also knew in our last conversation was that we predicted the conditions that we're living in right now when we did a scenario building exercise a year ago in February. And our question that we put to ourselves was, what would happen if Los Angeles fell into a deep crisis and nobody was in control? What would happen in terms of energy and resources? That was the more interesting question. I just feel like it's all a mystery, and then sometimes you live into the mystery and it's an opportunity. So it's a lot of stuff. Sorry, but thank you.
I'll share something about this too. I'm really feeling the energy of a spiral right now. I think one, to experience the mystery card last week and then start first thing with the mystery card again. And also just noticing how in nature there's so much of the spiraling pattern. And on the land that I'm stewarding, we have a labyrinth. And I notice how sometimes when I'm really struggling with uncertainty, I'll walk that labyrinth as a reminder of how life is not linear. And I totally understand it from a mental level, but sometimes it's so hard to be let go of the attachment. Like, you know, if I could only embrace the spiraling of life, then there would be less suffering, because I wouldn't be expecting like, okay, point A to point B to point C, but more just like, okay, like I don't know what's around the corner, and certain things have to keep repeating, or so it's just really interesting how nature is such a teacher around the flow of life, and how having expectations can sometimes get in the way of embracing the mystery. And it could be a feeling of excitement rather than fear, you know, but it's hard to really be in that sometimes when it's scary, or it's like, how do you plan your life when we don't really know? So just it's a gift to receive this card again and spiral back to this place.
Does anybody else feel called to share on this one? It's so cool that even though mystery is not a mystery in terms of we got to see it last week, it still provides so much to sort of explore. Well, if nobody else wants to respond to this one, I think I had seen 4 and 6. So I don't know how you feel, Belinda, about just going across the row today. So let's go with 4.
Yeah, let's
This
try
is
it.
this is new. We got.
We're-
Oh my gosh!
Wait, I think we did this last week, didn't we?
I guess we're like, this is ironic that we're remembering what we did and things repeat themselves. Oh my goodness. Well, I don't think we did 6 last week, but we're gonna keep going here. Anybody feel moved by Poppy and remembrance? Remember someone you are thankful for. How can you honor them?
I'm thankful for so many. My ancestors, my family, my grandparents, my father who passed when I was a baby. And honoring them, I honor them by living. I honor them by breathing. I honor them by being kind, being a good person. And I love poppies. We had them in our yard in Colorado.
Well, I'll go. For this one, it's less of remembrance from a ancestor point of view, but more of just my daughters. They've both been very hug oriented of lately, like they just needing extra hugs and being very communicative of that need and be like, I need a hug. And I'm just appreciating that they're just letting me know what they need. Like they're making the reminder very transparent of what they need. And if a hug is what they need, and I can certainly give them that, I certainly appreciate it. And maybe that's why I like to start off this session with a hug. There's just something about an embrace, that there's an intimacy, and and part of being intimate is being vulnerable. And so I'm appreciating what happens with vulnerability, what happens with intimacy, and just what happens when you ask for what you need. And to not forget that. Thank you.
I had a moment of remembrance in an interesting way yesterday. Right now, I'm spending time reading the book of Acts, and there are 2 people in the book who, Paul and Silas, who were in prison. And while they were in prison, they sung. And while singing and praising God, like the prison doors opened up and their chains fell off. And I tell you, yesterday I had one of the roughest emotional days that I had in a very long time. And I spent a lot of time like crying. And at the end of the day, I just put on like some praise music. And I kind of remember what they did in that moment. Like they were literally shackled in jail and they decided, okay, they're gonna sing. And that's how they got freedom, just by singing. And so I was like, remember that. And it's like, why don't I just try it? And it worked. And I was emotional at the start of the day. And then at the end of the day, I was like very happy.
I'm just really struck by how open the poppy is. And I'm just looking at the actual flower in red, and then the drawing of the poppy, and thinking about the poppy that grows wildly on my street. And it's like the orange, really bright one. And it's unrelated to the prompt, but what comes up for me is like, how could I live my life and be that present to like every moment, like in that such an open way? Because I feel like probably what my poppy looks like usually is like a little bit more like this, like, I'm not sure. Maybe sometimes I'm open, but then I'll be like, no, it's too dangerous. So I'm just really appreciating how open they are. I mean, you can see the middle of them, like see all the way through their hearts almost. And I guess my wondering is like, what would life be like if I was really that open? If my heart was just like, hello. It's edgy. It kind of I'm like, no, not ready for that.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So it's so today at school, it's always Thankful Thursday. So I think it's funny that we have the remembrance card because you can remember someone you're thankful all the time, but it's in particular we do this on Thursdays with the students. And I find a lot of these social emotional things that I do with my students, they're really good for me. They're just good for everyone. And this one, we actually did a little bit of a guided imagery, even where you see that person in front of you, know that you're thankful for, um, and it's just, I think the poppy. I was just thinking, it's weird. Remember, we were putting that flower in our heart, and I kept kind of changing my flower, and then it was gonna smell, and but then when I saw this card, I was like, oh, the poppy. I just love the poppy. And then I was like, oh, I want to do that thing with my heart again and fill it with that golden poppy because it has like I just love how it'll open, right? But then they close up when they need to, and then they open up and then you see all the layers of color inside them, and anyway, so I was like, oh, that's what I want in my heart is that, like you said, like, but the cool thing about the poppy is how it opens. And then also I whenever I see poppies, they're always sort of like moving. And there's something about that calm movement of them. And I think they do go really well with this word of remembering someone you're thankful for. It's almost like it washes over you, like the movement of that poppy. And it's so like relaxing. And when you feel thankful for someone and you can feel their presence, I don't know about the honoring them, but I just feel thankful for them. I guess honoring them is remembering them in some way and realizing how special they are. Yeah, I like this card.
Anybody else want to share on this card? Well, just as a note, when I really saw it and I started talking about my daughters, I remember my oldest daughter last year, I think it was about this time, she pointed it out because it grows wild in our front yard. And it was the first one of the season. And she just was like, Daddy, California poppy. And I appreciated that she noticed the first one and just taking that time to just see it. And I also just love that it grows wild. It's not something that we necessarily plant. We don't ever know where they're going to pop up. And I wrote something today that essentially we don't have to fear if our vase gets broken if we plant flowers in the wild. And so just sometimes we want to hold these things precious, like a vase or a vessel, and maybe the vessel is us, and we sensitive about getting broken. But what happens when we plant flowers in the wild, and our vessel and the vase isn't so precious anymore. Shall we do number 6? All right.
I love how every week is so different, even if it's the same. Wow. Abundance. Rose of Sharon. I feel like that one came up recently too.
Yeah. Something about this row. The Rose of Sharon, abundance. You already have everything you need. Do you believe it?
I'm noticing it's number 22, so 22 is with us in spirit. That's my spouse. His name is Tutu. And yes, this is, we have an abundance of mystery. We have an abundance of uncertainty. We have an abundance of opportunity if we can flip it from, oh my God to, oh God. Just the change in the tone. I do believe I already have everything I need. But the trick is I don't need that much. That's kind of what I realize as I spend more moon cycles. And this is the hibiscus basically, and I just love this flower. It comes in so many different colors, and there are fluffy ones, and there are the ones that you see at people's gardens that are beautiful always when they bloom. So I don't know. That's how it hit me today. Thank you so much.
Karen.
So I think that it's really, really powerful, the synchronicity of these three converging on this particular day and week. Like March 4th is the only day on the calendar that is a call to action to march forward, to March 4th. I mean, it's a play on words, but it's how I woke up this morning thinking about it. And it's also the week that so many of us went into lockdown initially. I don't know each state, but this is the week that we did here in Texas, in Dallas. And to remember a year ago, and to remember, like right now, we're in this liminal time, right? There was pre-COVID. There's the mystery of what's going to unfold. I'm not going to say political stuff, sorry. Thoughts come. But one thing that I know that I've taken from this entire year, when I remember it, is how little, like Angela, like you said, how little we really do need. And to tie in remembrance, mystery, and abundance with gratitude, it's the perfect combination of cards for me for this week, in particular this week. So maybe that's why, I mean, that's a mystery, why 2 of the 3 were repeats.
Well, I'll share. This is a little bit of kind of thanks, gratitude blooming, gratitude circles related. But Belinda and I, hosted our first gratitude circle for nurses, I think a month ago, maybe. And it was literally, I think 3 people showed up, maybe 4 people showed up. And then they asked us to come back to talk to not just this unit, but the whole floor. And so then there was like 90 people the next time. I think this was like a week ago, maybe 2. And then we got asked to put together a gratitude self-care package on the 1-year anniversary of COVID. So on March 19th, which for us here in California was around the 1-year anniversary of the lockdown, I got an email saying, hey, would you do something around gratitude for our LA County healthcare workers? And we're like, sure, And so it looks like we're going to be able to roll this out to 9 hospitals. So from 3 people to a floor to 9 hospitals. And on the abundance side, like I asked 5 people for funding. And we've now, and thanks to Angela and some others, like we've raised over $22,000 to be able to provide everything for free to the healthcare workers. And it was just sort of beautiful because we literally there was quote unquote nothing. And then all of a sudden, everything. And it'll be exciting to sort of see what happens when we share this with that many people. And it wasn't forced. It was really kind of an organic thing. And I remember last year when everybody was saying thank you. I don't know if you remember, but like it was like, thank you to healthcare workers, thank you. And I was like, oh, we're missing the moment. Like I'm a gratitude app and I'm not feeling like we're part of it. And so I was sort of like, and now like to then at the right moment, when in some ways healthcare workers have been through so much more, to now really kind of be of service. So not necessarily when it was popular to say thank you, but now when maybe some people have forgotten to say thank you and how long it's been, and to now be able to be of service. It's an honor in some ways to go back to that last card.
Every time I see abundance, I just want to dance. Was anyone at the circle when I was like, I just see the word dance.
Abundant.
The one thing I'd like to share on this is, and so grateful for the reminder of like where we've been, the remembering of what a year ago. It makes me think about mystery and abundance together, like friends. Like, what is it like when mystery and abundance are friends? Well, one, they're dancing. They're like having fun together. And 2, what would it be like every time that anxiety and fear like around the unknown crops up? And for me, it's like really, it's usually very unexpected. Like, oh, wow, this is happening right now. Okay. What would it be like if I invited abundance into the dance and I held that like true belief that I really do have everything I need? Then how would I feel about not knowing? It's something that I'm going to play with in the future when it comes up again around the fear of the unknown for the future. It's like, well, if I really believe that I have it all, I have what I need in the moment, then then the future feels more exciting. So yeah, something I'm going to play with for sure.
Would anybody else like to share before we start to close this circle? Brian? Yeah, mysterious Brian. Yeah, I love it. You're on mute though, bro.
I remain mysterious. Well, I guess for me, this card is kind of hard for me because I approach it two different ways. The first way I look at it is hard because I have so many goals and so many things that I've always wanted to do that I still haven't done. And so I'm always checking myself, constantly giving myself, I wouldn't say a hard time, but I'm always telling myself, you need to work harder. You need to reach those goals. You need to never lose sight of them. So sometimes even my wife will ask me, are you happy? Are you satisfied with some things? And I'm always telling her, no, I have bigger dreams. I know I can do better at this. I know I can, a dream of mine is like getting my own house. I know that that's something I can attain and I've always longed for. But so when I look at this card and it says, do you have everything, you need? I always feel like I need something else. I need something else. But then when I flip this card around and look at it a different way, I realize that I have everything I've always needed to obtain those goals. I've had a great education. I've had great parents. I've had great friends. I've had an abundance of blessings, and I need to remind myself that those things have never left me and they've never gone away. They're a part of me. They've always been a part of me. They'll stay with me. And as I try to achieve these goals that I have and these dreams that I have to remember that I do have an abundance of blessings and a great tools to help get me there. So it's a great card because it helps me look at it two different ways.
So I just want to, if everybody could put their hands up for Brian, just because he's just like the little shout out, thank you. Brian has been part of this journey of these Thankful Thursdays for a year with me. Literally every single one Brian has been a part of. He's helped me just to kind of continue to iterate and create and kind of makes it happen. So I just want to give him a shout out. But also, if you're on the Clubhouse app at 10:45 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday, he and his wife are now pulling gratitude blooming cards. It's called Coffee and Gratitude with Brian and Nicole. He and his wife we're doing the cards. And a bunch of folks kept pinging me and Belinda about joining. We're on Clubhouse, but we haven't been hosting anything. And we're like, well, we want to bring somebody else into that space. And then we're like, Brian, and you're already doing this with your wife, who's also in radio. And so I encourage you at 10:45 Pacific to check out Coffee and Gratitude with Brian and Nicole, and really seeing sort of gratitude come alive in lots of different ways. It can be a circle of two. And truth be told, Brian inspired me to start pulling the gratitude blooming cards with my wife. And so we've been doing it at the end of the day. And so there's just so many different ways to practice gratitude. And so as we wrap up today, I just sort of invite you to get settled. We're just going to do 3 breaths. Just this first breath, I just invite you to look back at this past hour of mystery, of remembrance, of abundance. Just feel the emotions that came up for you, the insights, to appreciate them and to know that we can have them without becoming them. In this next breath and moment, I invite you to just feel where your body, heart, and wisdom is at now. With this last breath, just notice what you want to bring with you through the rest of this week. What mystery, what remembrance, what abundance, what flower, what feeling do you want to just check in with each day to help you notice good wherever you are? Thank you so much for joining us this week. We're trying to get better at this. Belinda and I shop at the Gratitude Blooming. Get your own deck of cards. If you haven't downloaded the app, check it out and subscribe to the YouTube list. It's really exciting. Belinda and I, and if you have to leave the circle, totally understand for today. But we just counted up. We have like 15 gratitude circles that different organizations or networks have invited us to over the next 5 months. And so it's just been really exciting to see how this conversation, not just with the hospitals and everything else, but it's growing in so many different places. And so we're working on a workshop, a 2-hour workshop that Belinda and I are going to be co-hosting. I think we even have a date.
April 17th.
Yeah, so look out for an invitation to that workshop. John, look forward to seeing you on Clubhouse and in the app and in lots of different places. So thank you. Brian, you appreciate it? Okay. Cool. Cheers.